live. Hey guys, we're back from last week.
Happy Friday. Happy long weekend Friday, which is even better.
Sorry we did that last interview way past your bedtime, sir.
No, I'm perfectly okay with that. I didn't want to do that one.
That's okay. Some people just...
It's important to note that as of right before this show, it had 388 views already, which is a Faz Radio record. And that only eclipses our most watched cast ever, which was 2 years ago with the infamous Carrie Allen.
Yeah, I know. Carrie was awesome.
She did it twice, and those were the top two shows that we had. But that was amazing. So for those of you who spread the word on the cast, the special cast that Faz did the other night, thank you. I've got the shorts made. They're going to start running into the rotation with this week's show as well. So you'll catch some of the highlights if you weren't able to catch the entire show. But that was an epic success for Faz and for Faz Radio, no doubt about it. How do you guys, and while we're doing the cast, hang on one second. While we're doing the cast, we would love to hear comments about what you thought about that cast scrolling along, by the way.
Well, I want to hear, get them started. I'd like to hear what you thought about it because you seem to, I don't know, you seem to like not be the happiest, but you seem to then like the fact that, all the information that came out of that.
I wouldn't say that. I watch it because I support Faz Radio, not just because I'm a host, but I like what we do, and your questions were on the better side, absolutely.
I think your critique was that I moved to other questions too fast, that I should have stayed longer, but I stayed pretty long on that cemetery question and the other one, the test net.
The revelations, yes. So you did dig deep on a couple of those and pushed out a couple of answers that were frankly kind of shocking that we heard. And when you pushed him on putting your bugs onto Gala Chain and how it kind of broke the veil of decentralization because you've got to jump through hoops with Gala and get approved on pretty much anything. That was eye-opening. And the cemetery, I had made some comments that you would probably not take a shit for a week after the pucker that you gave when Brink called it a toy. He called the NFTs a toy. Well, okay.
In one sense, I think they are. But the thing is, who pays $23,000 for a toy? And he really... He really doubled and tripled down on this whole fact that you get a fucking hash out of this. You pay $23,000 for a hash. This is your hash. It's not anyone else's hash. In fact, this is a hash you can build on. Jesse can make a game out of this hash. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why do I need to pay $23,000 for somebody else to build upon? And he's like, and then it sounds like he was correcting me a little bit unhappily so, but it was still correct. He was correcting me on the purpose behind what you bought when you bought an NFT. He says you bought the right to place an NFT, and I said, well,
he said you bought a dream and an opportunity.
Yeah,
is what he said.
And I said, well, I'd like to place mine outside of a Minotaur cave, and he's like, no, we might not choose to let you place it there, and
yes.
Which actually is consistent with what they've said in the past, which is Michael McCarthy has said you won't be able to place things everywhere, that they have to strategically find places where you can put towns. Theoretically, if you did put it outside of Minotaur Cave, I mean, they could even counterbalance that and just say, well, your town would constantly get attacked by Minotaurs and get destroyed, so your cemetery wouldn't hold up.
I've been flashing the comments up.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's your fault. He talked for a long time. So, okay. A lot of people do this for different reasons. They will go long about something, and I think it's done for a variety of reasons. One, they're trying to recall everything. Or two, they're trying to string you along, or 3, well, it's always me. I'm trying to recall what the fuck I'm talking about, and it takes me forever. But I think that way of talking about subjects, and I do it too, causes people to get confused. You sound smart, but when you're done talking, you don't say a lot. And here I just went long and playing that.
Your phrase for that is word salad, and there was a lot of word salad in there.
Now this one right here that Nick just did here, this one is kind of important, and because Bitbender came out guns blazing, and I had asked a Lycan question, which was, why should I trust LFG if I don't trust Gala? And he says, I don't care if they trust me. Okay, so there's a problem with that. I don't know of a lot of businesses that do that say things like that. I'm just thinking like just online businesses or your donut shop or whatever. I'm sure Elon would say, I don't care if they trust me or not, because he knows that people will buy his stuff. But people need your business, and they do care if you trust them. And it sounds like, I don't know, if you're so on the offensive about your company, about, I don't know, it's, you want people to trust you if you have a blockchain. You want people to trust the blockchain and that that's being managed well. So I think you should care that people trust him.
Do you have any nitroglycerin around you?
No, not handy.
All right, then you'll probably die of a heart attack then.
Oh.
I'm going to side with Brink on this one.
Oh, really?
And here's why. Now, I want to preface the statement I'm about to make with this. He's got to take the back end of what he said, and he's got to make that happen. In Web3, he's absolutely right. You shouldn't have to trust. It should just be there, because he's pushing hard on the Web3 narrative. And that's why he's doing what he's doing. And he even poo-pooed Gala for being too Web 2 thinking, right? So I agree with him. He shouldn't have to care if people trust him from that level. But he said, just like you have said before, he said, you've got to just judge the results. You shouldn't have to trust me and watch what I do.
Okay, now, I can buy that.
Now, he has shown over the last 3 to 4 years that he wasn't able to do much of anything. So do I think that you need to trust him? Yes, like you were saying, because it is a Web 2 business. It's not a Web 3 business. And people and businesses and these companies that he wants to put on blockchain will have to trust him. He doesn't care if the community trusts him, because he's not making a community product. He's making
he's doing a B2B product now.
Right.
He's
exactly.
B2B, not B2C.
That's why he doesn't care if you or I trust him. And I don't know what context he was putting that I don't care if they trust me out in, to the community or just in general. Because if he did it in general, I'm more on your side. If he did it saying that's not what Web3 is about, you shouldn't have to trust me.
Well,
I got to go his side.
If LFG is B2B, then he doesn't really need a Discord. He doesn't really need, unless the Discord is to bring in new partners, but partners tend to not like to do that stuff in public.
Well, here's the thing. He has to get the community behind him, because he's bringing the B2B in, but he needs people out there, community users, customers, to buy into what he's selling on Gala Chain with these companies. If a company comes in with a game, or a company comes in with an AI platform, he needs you, Faz, to be able to go to Gala Chain and buy the tokens of that AI bot or whatever it is they're bringing in. So he's not thinking too far ahead. Again, Gala always plays checkers, not chess. He's thinking right here, the short term, what's right in front of him.
Well, I think
he's going to need people to interact.
If he's B2B and he's an advisor, then Gala or somebody else will pump that coin and not him. So if it is the way that I think it is, then he really doesn't need to care about people. And I can buy that then. Sure. Anyway, so I did have to get through a lot of subjects, and I asked darn near every question that was given to me. I think I missed like 3, and it took us 2 hours.
Job with that.
Minutes, and it took us 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I know your critique was I didn't stay on some things long enough, and I'm going to say, too bad. I think we got a lot of stuff there.
You did. There were just a couple of spots that I wish you would have dug a little bit deeper. And yeah, Nick, that legal team, that made us all laugh pretty hard.
Weird flex.
What are they gonna do? Right? They can watch all they want. We don't have we don't have private public channels. They're welcome to come and lurk all they want. They can screenshot all they want, just like we did over there at when we were all in the Gala server.
Well, it's the fact is that CFA is you can pretty much say whatever you want. The only thing that I'm really against is name calling and hate. Now, of course, people define hate differently. If you start chasing somebody down without curse words or without calling people's names, people will walk away thinking that they've been hated upon. I don't. I think that you just lost the argument, or you're free to limit your being in that argument. But yeah, people are a lot more freer, and I've gotten a lot of people, even recently, the last couple of weeks, saying they're very happy about how freely they can talk about Gala stuff. I mean,
well, they can talk about anything except religion and politics, basically. But
yeah, I cut that one out too.
A lot of the people do. I mean, that's why they're there, is because we don't shut them down. I think I've threatened timeouts a few times. I think you banned one person and I banned one person over 3 years. They'll usually listen and settle down and walk away.
The people that aren't there anymore, there are people that leave very loudly, or I've had to correct them and say, hey, stop calling that person names, and they want to justify why they hate such and such a person. And I'm like, we don't like that here. And they usually show themselves the door. They're like, okay, fine, I don't have to be here. Great. I'm not kicking people off. I just bring it up. I just have the conversation with them. Like, you're kind of being a dick to that person. How about you just stick with the facts? And they're like, no, this guy's an asshole. It's like, okay, well, we don't do that here. So I do that. That is a complaint that Bitbender has had about CryptoFaz Academy. Is he constantly tells me that there's a lot of hate going on, but we don't allow a lot of that.
We had 2 members of our dean's list who walked away in frustration because they let Gala get to them too much.
And that's the important thing, is you've got to realize that, I mean, this is all online shit. This is just people are speculating on crypto right now. I understand you want to see them do really well, but if you don't have a stake in the company, if you don't have a stake in the company, why are you getting so pissed? When you own crypto and NFTs, you don't have a stake in the company. So it is on you. I bought a $23,000 cemetery. Am I unhappy about that? Yeah. Did I have a stake in the company or feel that I can influence them? No, I can't. And I never could. And they never ever said that I could. And they've never ever honored anybody who's bought $23,000 cemeteries. So, I mean, what do you want?
$23,000 toys. Get it right.
$23,000 toys, yes. And of course, what gets me is they can change the purpose of those things. Now that the Chile team is there, they could totally nerf or do away with the cemeteries, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, that's something that we'll be discussing later in this cast, because I pulled up as one of the talking points tonight Bill Hinman's speech from 2018, which is what they're basing a lot of this crypto regulation on. And when I read through that, there's a couple of points I want to bring up.
Okay.
No, I mean, we can still talk about Gala a little bit if you want, but I'm just saying we're going to talk about that subject of NFTs in a little bit.
So I did bring up the laundry token example that Jay Clayton gave. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's similar. If you're buying, I think 10 tokens for 10 laundromats that don't currently exist, and you're doing it for speculative reasons, that's the security. And so I asked Bitbender, because the way he was talking about things, it just hit me at that time. I'm just like, is this like a laundry token? You know, he's like, well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, and I'm like, well, that's a security, you know.
So the funny part is I found Hinman's speech because I was doing some research before the show, and I was trying to find the definition of sufficiently decentralized. And that was like the second thing that Google served me up. And I started reading through it, and I was like, oh, wow, this would be a really good part of this SEC talk today to go through this. And I figured since you just came off the Gala thing, that we could probably use Gala as an example for discussion around where this regulation is coming from, because this is what Gensler is standing on, is that Hinman speech, and that was big in the XRP trial as well.
Yeah, and yeah, we all disagree with Gary Gensler, but I mean he's doing what the predecessor was doing. He's been fairly consistent about stuff. They've just taken it all the way to the nines as far as, you know, how much they're fighting this one. And
he
it's
wants
kind of
to
weird
control it all.
Well, it is kind of weird. And this is a perfect setup for you, how they all of a sudden rolled over on that Ethereum ETF the other day. So
FIT21.
What happened there?
So a lot of things happened. We've even screamed on this show about Congress needs to be the ones taking action, because if Congress doesn't take action, Gensler's just going to run with the ball if there's no one there to stop him. And he was just ridiculously opposed to this FIT21 that Congress passed. Now, just because Congress passed it doesn't mean it's going into effect. It's still got to go to the Senate, and then from the Senate, it goes to the president, and then it becomes law. I have a feeling, because Gensler and Biden are so close, it never makes it into law that way. They would have to send it back to the Senate for a 2/3 vote. But it is, I think it's an okay bill. There are some things in there, though, that are a little sketchy, and we're not going to go through all the minutia, at least on this show. But there are things in there that aren't the greatest. But it's a good first start. So let me pull up. Which one is it? This one. All right. So let me share my screen. And all these links are already in the show notes. See, I'm learning. I've gotten ahead now 4 weeks in a row. Share screen. That one. Share. And then add to stage. So
it's bigger. There you go.
All right. So a crucial crypto bill called the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century. Duck Dodgers in the 21st and a half century. The key takeaways. All right. So what this does is it will provide a sort of new Howey type test for determining whether or not a project or a platform or a token or anything else is decentralized enough to become, on this side, part of the CFTC. If it is not, they're going to let Daddy Gensler, oversee it at the SEC. This decentralization test that we'll get into in a minute, it will determine whether a token or an NFT or whatever it is, whatever project is doing, is a security or a commodity. Crypto securities regulated by the SEC, while commodities will be regulated by the CFTC. It will also, if tokens decentralize later, kind of like the whole XRP thing, they can switch from becoming a security to a commodity.
Yes, that's that safe harbor thing,
yes.
Safe harbor concept.
The bad news is that's a two-way street. Something that is a commodity, if they overstep and centralize, re-centralize, or change things enough, it can go back to the SEC as well. So once, it's not like once you get to the CFTC, it's like, woo, now we can do whatever the hell we want. it doesn't work that way. It goes both ways.
Well, the CFTC is going to have its tight rules as well, and there's going to be KYC in there. You can guarantee.
Of course there is. Of course there is. And that's why I said we can dig into this bill and talk for 4 hours and not even come away with everything that's in this. But Gensler's claiming this puts the markets and investors at risk, which is, to me, just a bunch of shit, right? So it'll introduce a decentralization test to determine whether or not it's a security or a commodity, all right? And absent clear rules, we'll continue to see the SEC pursue a regulation by enforcement agenda. So this is why they brought this out. They're tired of that. It looks to impose strict consumer protections on crypto service providers for their disclosures, segregation of funds, provisions, and high custody standards. It will draw a clear line between a commodity and a security, and it will allow projects to evolve from centralized to decentralized. So for your favorite project, whatever that project is, once it's classified, because all projects will have to be classified as part of this deal, okay? You come out with anything crypto, you will have to go through this and be classified as one or the other. So those companies that are out there saying, oh, we're centralized now, but we're moving towards decentralization. Well, guess what? In their annual filing, they're going to receive a determination as to whether they're sufficiently decentralized. And that reporting is going to be required, I believe it's yearly, from what I was skimming through. This bill is like ginormous.
Sufficiently decentralized will need to be clarified. And the good news is the first few things that, they do? Where's that at?
It's not in this article. It's in the bill. And like I said, the bill is like 300 frickin' pages. We would never get through that.
Claude and have Claude tell you.
But they're doing the Faz approach to this, okay? A broad spectrum of decentralization is going to be used to start, okay?
People still writing comments about Bitbender and LFG. Are they really listening to you? Kids, pay attention.
So let them talk. We'll get to it. We can circle back to it later, but we do want to get through this. This is really important. This is probably why the ETF got passed, because they said with regard to Ethereum, McHenry, representative, said Ethereum clearly passes the decentralization test, making it a commodity. And it says here, POTUS announced they will not veto the crypto bill if passed by Congress, which means that's where I was saying there's a lot of by the ways in here that aren't so good. Biden is severely anti-crypto. So if he's willing to sign this bill, you bet your ass there's a bunch in there that you don't want. And that's probably going to be KYC on private wallets and everything else. So it goes in and it says it has a long way to go. The Senate's got to vote on it. They'll probably change a few things before they vote. This whole bill thing, if you don't remember back to 6th grade when you learned about it, the Congress, whatever Congress passes through their committees, it then goes to the Senate. The Senate committees then make a bunch of changes, additions, subtractions. They vote on it. If it passes, it goes to the president. The president can also request changes at that point. So the bottom tells it all. The Biden administration did not make a veto announcement on the bill. So that's, I think, where they're getting this. They will not veto the bills just because they didn't say they wouldn't. So take that with a grain of salt.
Some of that, they also might not make a veto announcement if they know that there's enough to override a veto.
Right.
Remember, they had a number of Democrats actually signing on to this. So if they can't override a veto, they're not going to make a veto threat. They just won't go there and look bad.
So one of the downsides on this, and this is one of the important things I wanted to hit on, Gensler did make a good argument here. What if perpetrators of pump and dump schemes and penny stock pushers contend they're outside of the security laws by labeling themselves as crypto investment contracts or self-certifying that they're decentralized? The SEC would only have 60 days to contest that. So a big part of this is the projects that are doing this will have to self-declare and self-certify that they're either centralized or decentralized.
Kind of like you self-figure out your own taxes too.
Yeah. And then they're saying here that once that filing is made, the SEC would only have 60 days to go after and challenge that they are sufficiently decentralized or that they pass the test to move over to the CFTC or stay at the CFTC. So that I kind of agree with them that is, I like the expeditious way that government, usually takes years. 60 days is good, but you're going to have 16,000 different projects all submitting. And of course, they're all going to say they're decentralized. That's going to kill the SEC.
Okay, I'm going to paste. I'm going to get the text of this law and see if I can get Claude to tell me about it.
All right, you do that. I'm going to pull up this this next place. Oh, Punjab, great comments, by the way. We're gonna circle back to that before the show goes off. I guarantee it. Because that was a really good part of the cast was about the wallet freezing, and we'll talk about that.
This right here, Reaper has a point. Do you know about this whole KYC business for private wallets?
So Elizabeth Warren and several others have put forth, I don't want to say bills, but suggestions for bills where they're going to want you to register and KYC all of your private wallets, right? And that is a problem. I agree with Reaper. That's none of their damn business. It's like cash, right? But they want that. And they're going to get it, as you pointed out when we were arguing a couple of weeks ago. You got to connect the wallet. You're going to be sending from an address to an exchange. It's going to be doxed anyway. So the KYC is already going to be there. But they're going to probably want you to register all of your addresses, is my guess. And a lot of people don't like that, including myself. That's my business, not the government's, right? And it's up to me to declare my taxes. And if they disagree with that, they're welcome to do their audits and all that kind of fun stuff to the citizens who do their declarations. But it's not up to us to do their job for them. That I am a strong believer in that. Let me switch screens. That's what I was in the process of doing.
That's what kind of gets me. Hold on a second here. Is the fact that right now with cash, you can make purchases, and the federal government doesn't know what purchases you made. I mean, if I wanted to buy something from you, you could just sell it to me, and I can hand you cash. But they feel that they got to know for taxation purposes. Like if I bought a toaster from you, they don't care. Well, technically they do, but they won't go after you. If I bought a car from you, they do care. And since there's record keeping on the transfer of titles of cars, they at least have that introspection into the process. But yeah, with crypto, I could buy a toaster from you or a $5 NFT, and the feds are going to want their cash. They're going to want their tax part of it.
So another article was talking about the frauds and scams that Gensler's crying about at this point, and it comes down to the risk of non-compliance with U.S. law. Okay, the people now we know that there's a lot of scams. Out of the 16 or 18,000 different tokens that are out there, I would say probably 13 to 14,000 are pure garbage. Right? They're not even worth it. There are quite a few that are actually doing something, and that are legit. Some of them hyper legit. But they're saying here, from a Deloitte, they're a big accounting firm, probably the largest accounting firm in the U.S., if not the world. A more cutting-edge and tax-savvy clientele with disposable income for luxury goods and services citing a survey that found 85% of merchants view crypto payments as a way to reach new customers. They want this to be freely tradable. Merchants are wanting this. Business wants this. But again, business is sketched out because of the regulations being very unclear. So they're not going to take that risk. At their current level, crypto assets represent a small part of the overall financial system. But it could, if it was just opened up wide, pose a threat to global financial stability. And again, that's their system, to their financial system, the one that is set up and is standardized.
Oops,
that's
that
changing anyway. With the BRICS nations pooling together and pulling other nations in, the world economy is going to be a shit show anyway. So you might as well bring crypto in. Okay, so it says it could undermine $100 trillion capital markets for those trying to escape robust disclosures and prohibitions. All they got to do is tighten the screws, guys. It's not tough. I'm not for that, but that's what these negotiations are for, is to find a way to do it where it goes right in the middle.
All right.
What do you?
I tried to post the text of that, a summary of that act in chat here, and that didn't work too well. So I'm going to post it in CFA instead. Trying to figure out the channel. Taxes, regs, banking. So I'll put it in there.
Well, we haven't used that one since April.
Since April. I posted something in it just on the 13th of May. Not my fault you don't read it. All right. So, yes, go into the taxes, regs, banking channel, and it's nice summarized. I can read it here. Provides definitions for key terms related to digital assets. That's good. Establishes a notice of intent to register process, which you went into. Exempts certain digital asset transactions from securities registration requirements. That's nice. Establishes requirements for offers and sales of restricted digital assets. Requires enhanced disclosures related to digital assets. Provides the SEC with authority over permitted payment stablecoins and restricted digital assets, but they're not saying what. Requires registration of digital asset trading systems. You mentioned something similar. Establishes registration and regulatory requirements for digital commodity exchanges. Authorizes the CFTC to regulate digital commodities markets. Codifies Lab CFTC and the SEC's strategic hub for innovation and financial technology. So it's a new department. Establishes a SEC Joint Advisory Committee and requires studies on decentralized finance, NFTs, financial literacy, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems to me this is all about definitions to provide a framework to build onto. I don't know why the Democrats are having such a problem, because they can add to this. But the important part is getting the definitions down is important to kind of guide things. You have to get something down so that business can move forward.
Absolutely agree.
Let's see. So I did ask Claude if there's KYC provisions in it. Yes, the bill includes some provisions related to consumer identification and anti-money laundering. So, yeah, there's some KYC in there.
There is. Like I said, I just didn't dig into it because that thing is like monster size.
I love Claude.
That's my favorite pick.
Let's see. I don't see anything about unhosted wallets, though. Here's the thing. If you have, and Gemini is doing this, if you are sending stuff from your wallet to Gemini, to your Gemini account, and I'm just using Gemini as an example, it could be to any exchange, they're going to associate that address with you in some way. They're going to KYC that address as, oh, this is something that Faz has worked with or Titan is dealing with, and then we can go to them and get receipts or something like that. Also, I noticed that Gemini now has it to where if you want to send stuff out to wallets of yours, you have to get it registered. So I have a wallet on OpenSea that I wanted to send funds out to when I get them. I can then send funds from my wallet to anywhere I want, but Gemini doesn't want to send things out to anywhere except wallets that you own. That's a big deal. That means you can't just send funds from Gemini to anyone anymore. You have to send it to certain wallets that you can tell them what they are. So I could claim that your wallet is my wallet, but I have to register it, and it'll say, okay, Titan's wallet is where Faz wants to send things. And it's registered now as forever associated with Faz. That's pretty close to KYCing that wallet.
It is.
I can say it's not my wallet, which, I'd be right, but still I'm going to be questioned about it. And Gemini is taking that first step of saying, okay, we're just going to wash our hands of it.
It very well could be. And I don't want to see that happen. I really don't.
Well, I don't know how you can't get around it, because our current way that our current society works is things need to be KYC'd. Every transaction is going to be taxed because the government has made a lot of boo-boos with their money management. And while they're certainly on to you about yours, they need to plug a lot of holes in theirs. And they're going to, if you sell a $5 NFT to somebody, they want their share, which I have been selling some zip bugs lately. So, and they're going to want their share of zip bug sales. They you have some digital pictures you want to send, they want part of it.
Of course they do.
And then, of course, if that digital picture gets sent to somebody else, they want part of that fee that I get, that 2% fee that I get on OpenSea.
They're always just after the money. I mean, that's really all it's about. It's not to protect anybody. They just want to be able to know how much you have so that you'll pay them.
Uh-oh. Okay, so this bill does include a provision related to self-hosted wallets. Sorry, Reaper. Also known as unhosted wallets. Section 105D prohibits the Financial Crime Network, FinCEN, from issuing, prevents FinCEN from issuing any rule or order that would prohibit a U.S. individual from maintaining a hardware wallet, software wallet, or other means to facilitate such individual's own custody or conducting transactions with self-custody. So no, that's good. It wasn't bad. So that provision is to protect people who have self-hosted wallets, saying that they cannot be prevented from having them. That's great.
Reaper, they want it on both sides. They want it when you earn it, and they want it when you spend it, and they're just going to take it all.
Well, the important part is for taxation, they just want to have something to tax from, and those records are all there, so you can provide all the records. So I would say what the problem is. They're going to tax you anyway, and that's a separate process. We're not going to get it to where crypto is seen separately and you can't be taxed. Sorry, not going to happen. Especially if you make lots of money off of trading, they're coming for you.
There's a lot of places that are very, very friendly with crypto taxes. And top of my head, I can't list them off, but a while ago, it was maybe 8-9 months ago, I had a really good article on that. I might have even showed it on one of the shows. It was it's probably longer than that. I'm terrible with time. But it was right when El Salvador made crypto or Bitcoin legal. And they posted an article about a ton of crypto-friendly places to go where the taxes were super low. So I did want to dig in to this and have a quick conversation. This is the SEC's website, sec.gov. And this link is also in the description. And this is Bill Hinman, who was the director of and division of corporate finance, and he was a top dog over at the SEC. And there's a couple of things in here that I wanted to hit on. And this has been cited in the XRP case and a lot of other cases. This is where the basis for crypto theory for regulation came from, is this speech. And so he goes into talking about how he loves it and crypto should be promoted. But here's where it gets in, and I want you to think about your favorite platform, whether it's Gala, whether it's Bodhi, whether it's any of the things that you love, Star Atlas, whomever, whatever, however, right? And it says here, promoters, in order to raise money to develop networks on which digital assets will operate, often sell the token or coin rather than sell shares, issue notes, or obtain bank financing. In many cases, the economic substance is the same as a conventional securities offering. Funds are raised with the expectation that the promoters will build their system, and investors can earn a return on that instrument, usually by selling their tokens in a secondary market. Once the promoters create something of value with those proceeds, and the value of the digital enterprise, your token, increases. So this is absolutely where Gary Gensler is coming from and why he's calling all of basically everything except BTC and ETH right now a security. Because if you think about your favorite thing, this is saying if you're buying tokens before there's an actual thing, then it's most likely a security. You can do this very easily, and he brings up the Howey test, which we've cited many, many times. All right, and this is important too, because this caught my eye. Just as in the Howey case, tokens and coins are often touted as assets that will have a use in their own right, coupled with a promise that assets will be cultivated in a way to cause them to grow in value or to be sold later at a profit. Okay? That is really, really big. So he goes on, and I hope I can find it again. It was right down here somewhere, but it said he talks about how just declaring that it has a utility is not enough. That isn't enough to not make it a security. Operational. Oh, yeah. Okay,
Wait,
so here it is.
Wait. You said
what?
Claiming that it has utility is not enough to make it a security?
Yeah, is not enough. That isn't enough to not make it a security, right?
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's in here somewhere. We're getting there. All right. As an aside, you might ask, given these token sales often look like security offerings, why are the promoters choosing to package the investment as a coin or token offering? This is a good question on a network for which the token or coin will function is not yet operational. I think there can be a number of reasons. Okay. He talks about the reasons. He says it brings some marketing sizzle to that enterprise. They call that an ICO, is what this is saying. Crowdfunding, digital assets can be exchanged. I want to find that because that was like really big to me. Returning to the ICOs, I'm seeing whatever the digital is called is not a security. When someone buys a housing unit to live in, it's probably not a security, but under certain circumstances, the same asset can be offered or sold in a way that investors have a reasonable expectation of profit off the efforts of others. If you contract with a management contract or other services, that can be deemed a security. The digital asset itself is simply a code. By the way that it is sold as part of an investment to non-users by promoters to develop that enterprise can and most often is a security because it does evidence an investment contract. So what that is saying is that if people are promoting it, whether it's the enterprise or anybody else, if it's being promoted, it's most often a security.
Wait, what did the Ripple case say about this? Did they say that
I don't know about the Ripple case.
well, the Ripple case, they had said without a contract, you don't have a contract. That's the thing. Just saying something isn't a contract.
That's not what this is saying here. So that might have been a little bit different.
Yeah, well, that's not exactly this again is that speech when Harry met Howie, right? Or Gary met Howie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So evidence is, I mean, again, if you have something written, it's a contract. If you have something that's not, there is no contract. And the SEC in the Ripple case, if I'm not mistaken, was trying to say even trading XRP made it a contract.
This is what I've argued with you about for 3 years. And this is where I think I got this. I probably took this as an excerpt out of something else. If the network on which the token or coin is to function is sufficiently decentralized, where purchasers would no longer reasonably expect a person or group to carry out essential managerial or entrepreneurial efforts, the assets may not represent an investment contract. If there is anybody that takes on, that you're relying on for anything in that network, it is not decentralized. That's what this is telling you. This isn't law, but this is where the basis for all this is coming from. So while I'm not going to sit here and say this is law and you were wrong, what I'm saying is
you're making an assumption based upon the word sufficiently, and you're the one saying it and not this thing. This paragraph is not defining what sufficiently means.
It says if it is sufficiently decentralized, which means he's going to explain it, where purchasers would no longer reasonably expect a person or group to carry out essential managerial or entrepreneurial efforts. Meaning, let's use Gala as the example here.
I'd use a marketplace, yeah.
If Gala stopped developing the Node software and somebody else did it, that would be, according to this, like an independent, like Bitcoin does it, that would be sufficiently decentralized, not decentralized. That does not make it decentralized. It makes it sufficiently decentralized. So as long as Gala is programming the Node software, it is not sufficiently decentralized. Same with the games. If Gala is developing the game will not be sufficiently decentralized.
I'm not seeing. I don't see it closing. Stop. Go back. No. Go back. It says
right
where
here.
Purchasers would no longer reasonably expect a person or group to carry out essential managerial or entrepreneurial efforts. Is Gala currently managing the nodes?
Their entrepreneurial efforts, we're relying on them to push the node software, because if they don't do it, the nodes don't run.
So
wait a minute. An entrepreneurial effort.
Wait a minute. The nodes are running right now.
And they're only running because Gala programs them to run.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to get at is just trying to figure out if they are managing this node network right now, or if the node network is managing itself.
It's not. We're not doing anything except spinning up a workload. That's all we're doing. They're putting the traffic on the network. They're managing the network traffic. They're deciding what that workload does. They're deciding what the software does.
Good point. Good point. Yes, they can turn nodes off.
But yes, this is why I've been hammering this at you for years. Anyway, there was one more point I wanted to make in here, and then we can move on. Oh, here we go. This is the last thing I'll talk about, and I'll whip through this closely because this is really important. And if you remember Library, do you remember the Library case? they a lot of this sounds familiar to that library case, especially number 3. But number 1, is there a person or group who has sponsored or promoted the creation and sale of the digital asset, the efforts of whom play a significant role in that development, and the maintenance of the asset, and does it have a potential increase in value? That sounds like a lot of the projects we talk about. Has this group retained a stake or other interest in the digital asset that it would be motivated to expend efforts to cause an increase in the value of the digital asset?
Okay, that previous thing you were talking about, were they talking about digital assets or just a network?
The previous thing was networks. This is talking about assets.
Okay, so you could say that you could say that the network is not decentralized, which Bitbender says it is.
Right.
But you could say that the digital asset itself might be decentralized because it's not really, I mean, once it's on the Ethereum blockchain, they really can't do anything about it. I mean, it's there, it's going to trade.
That's what it's getting into here. Has a person or group retained a stake or other interest in the digital asset such that it would be motivated to expend efforts? A company would be motivated to expend efforts to increase the value of that digital asset. Would purchasers reasonably believe that such efforts would be undertaken and may result in a return on their investment in that digital asset? So your favorite project, every project that I'm thinking of in my head right now, 1 and 2 are both check marks, right? Has the promoter raised an amount of funds in excess of what may be needed to establish a functional network? And if so, has it indicated how those funds may be used to support the value of the tokens or increase the value of the company? Does the promoter continue to expend funds from proceeds or operations to enhance the functionality and value of the system in which the tokens operate? I've got 3 boxes checked. Are purchasers investing, that is, seeking a return? In that regard, is the instrument marketed and sold to the general public instead of to potential users of the network for a price that reasonably correlates with the market value or good service in the network? That one is not checked for me on the projects that I go in. I don't think I've ever run into one that meets that criteria. Okay. The Application of Securities Act. Is there a person or entity that others are relying on that plays a key role in the profit making of that enterprise, such that disclosure of their activities and plans would be important to investors? Do informational asymmetries or similarities exist between the promoters and the potential purchasers of that digital asset? Maybe. Sometimes on a couple projects, right? Do persons or entities other than the promoter exercise governance rights or meaningful influence? That's real subjective, right? For a lot of those. So they're saying the more of these that check box yes, the higher the probability it is that it's a security.
Let's take a break here for a second. Nick here has a question. He says, do you guys not want crypto to be securities because the government will sink its teeth in? If your favorite crypto is a security, it's going to it's going to make a whole bunch of rules for that crypto, that a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through. Also, it's going to effectively make the U.S. government able to control that asset because their criteria for managing a security is that it has to follow certain rules for a security that the U.S. government comes up with. So if Bitcoin was determined as security, they would be able to hold somebody's feet to the fire and say, okay, you need to not do this at certain times and do this at other times. And, kind of like the president right now will authorize the Treasury to print more money and print less money because they want to manage the economy. Having securities laws means that you're able to manage that item when you want to manage the economy. Well, that's kind of contrary to how crypto works. Crypto is supposed to be, you have your stuff, it's either money or it tokenizes some asset that you have, and it's yours to do with it you please. But the government wants it to be a security so that they can control it, so they can come and turn the screws when projects don't go the way that they want. And then now the government controls crypto. So that's why we don't want it to be a security, because it's going to be the same old story with the U.S. dollar. The government controls the U.S. dollar 6 ways till Sunday.
They do.
Okay, so M. Ice has a question. Can't Hedera and Solana turn off nodes too? They can, and same with a number of them. Those then would be centralized. I mean, Titan was just making the point that a lot of crypto projects out there are centralized. Now the question is, can you do that with Bitcoin? Can you turn off nodes and miners? Well, the governments can try to turn those off if they know where they are. If the government tried to turn off all the miners, then you'd start seeing miners being built into every piece of software out there. And then there'd have to be another agency that would have to spend a lot of time, playing whack-a-mole. What's this? I wish founder nodes would vote to elect a council to decide these things. I tried on the conversation with Bitbender last night to get more into why certain things were up for node votes and prioritized higher, and some things weren't. And the understanding I got from him is, look, Gala Games is the only thing that acts upon these node votes right now, and so we're going to prioritize things as appropriate. And I mean, he made it pretty obvious that they effectively have control over what gets worked on and what gets brought up for a vote. Now, I did chase him down on the vote, and I said, okay, well, how am I going to put up a vote? How am I going to propose a vote if I've been banned from the Gala Discord? Do you remember that one? I asked him 3 times. He came back hard on that one. At first, he's like, well, no, you can't. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If it's decentralized, you should be able to. And so he kind of hemmed and hawed, like saying, well, there could be a way, if you did this and did that, and then maybe passed it through a third party or something like that. I'm thinking to myself, this is pretty hinky. This is pretty, like Rube Goldberg of voting. And basically he's saying, if there's somehow some way of groundswell of people that wanted something that was not in the Gala universe, the Gala Discord, and they got together and they all voted with their node, and I'm like, yeah, how can they get the fucking question on the nodes for governance? So essentially they're controlling governance. And he's giving a very hinky, undeveloped way of controlling governance right now. So do they effectively have governance? If you don't get banned from the Gala Discord, maybe.
So
you should probably learn to toe the line and find the right way of saying things nicely to them, and maybe you'll be able to govern. But hopefully, okay, go ahead.
No, this is really important, Emma. You bring up a very good point. And I agree with you and I disagree with you. There's nothing wrong with being centralized. What gets my blood pressure going and causes the vein right here in my head to start swelling up and popping out is when obviously centralized entities say that they're decentralized when they're not. And they keep trying to cram down the throat. They think, and Faz, you talked about this with Brink, and I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle you when I was watching it. Just because you have nodes in 23 different countries, that has absolutely nothing to do with decentralization. Decentralization is who's poking the buttons for those nodes. So that's what chaps my ass, M-Ice. I don't care if they're centralized. Say it. Say, I'm centralized right now. I'm 100% centralized right now. We'd like to get there. Let's lay out how we're going to get there. And they lay out a plan and they work towards that plan.
Well, then you missed.
I don't see most of these projects doing that, though.
Then you missed my angle where I said, as long as there is a company in the middle, you're not decentralized. That's the part you missed. If the SEC has somebody to go after, you are centralized. Therefore, it's centralized. And of course, Bitbender's response was, every project is like this. And I was like, which ones? Give me an example. So he said USDC. And I said, hey, yeah, that's a good point. And I wasn't giving the point up as much as saying, yeah, it seems that there's a lot of projects that do that. And unless you're Bitcoin, you're a project that's going to do that. So, yeah, I would have to agree, because I still see a company in the middle, which is what I stated. It's not a decentralized node network. They can turn off the network. It's funny because I think what they're saying is what he might be saying is theoretically decentralized, because I said, what if Gala were to be shut down? And that would shut down the nodes, right? And he says, well, it could be open sourced. Well, it's not.
But it's not.
It's not right now. It's like, what are you going to do? Open source it on the way out as you're going to jail or something like that? You're going to
they're going to do that, yeah.
Government? And so, yeah, it could be open source. Hey, Jay Soto, I called you out in the last in the last Faz Radio for you to snap part of the conversation and make a little video. Just so you know, you might want to search the transcript for your name. Anyway, so I think the thing that gets me is how sure Bitbender was at saying that the node network is decentralized, yet falling back to, if Gala Games gets shut down, then it could be open sourced. That was it. That was what all the fire and brimstone was about, was that there was a possibility it could be open sourced and somebody could reproduce this node network. But right now, all this node network is doing is what? Just pinging? Is it doing anything yet?
The jury's out on that. I think some of our friends who are much better at pulling data out of these nodes has said it's doing things, but they don't know exactly what they are doing. But they are not ping machines. They do other things, but it's really hard to nail down exactly what it is they're doing.
Well, Shanrad here is saying that the node network is geographically centralized. So yes, I guess he can hide behind that definition of the word, but how many nodes are being run on like Amazon and some hosting provider that just, allows you to be a pinger? That's the problem with the node network right now, is everybody has some hosting provider to run it. They're not running it at their own house. So I'd like to know what percentage of that node network is decentralized, even geographically. We don't know this.
Well, and if you go to Contabo or AWS or anything, right? You can, sometimes they let you choose where you run your instances and your containers out of. Sometimes they don't. So you could, if I signed up for Contabo here, I could pick Europe as where I want to place my instance. So geographics has little to do with it. It's the actual.
Well, no, geographics does matter when you're talking about availability of resources. If you place some stuff in Europe, place some nodes in Europe, that means whatever they're being used for is going to be a lot more available to people over there, just not over here. That's okay. I'd still like to know what the nodes are doing, though. If they're just pinging, are they? I thought their eventual goal was a route transactions or something, wasn't it? Or is that happening right now?
The jury's out on that one. We'll have to get one of the experts who knows.
We're gonna have to find somebody who knows so that we're not blowing steam, and that's what keeps Bitbender up at night, is when he says something and then people don't remember what it was.
Now
later.
Zorro has Gala back in his name. He had it out. Well, he has it out on Discord, but he has it on
Zorro Gala, Zorro, right?
Zorro Gala. Anyway, welcome, Zorro. Good to see you, man. DAO concepts of decentralization. Right. So the word DAO is literally decentralized autonomous organization, right? So that implies that it's decentralized, where we all know most of them start out In fact, I think all of them start out centralized. But again, that's where you have the honesty and the disclosures, such as the GG Collective. They have a DAO, and they come right out and say, we are centralized right now. They're making their disclosures. We have a path to decentralization, and in their white paper, they detail out what their map to decentralization is. Now, it's up to them to execute that, of course, just like any organization. If they're not executing it, they can't claim to be decentralized. They have to, they don't have to, there's no law, right? But they shouldn't be marketing as a decentralized network if it's not decentralized. And there's steps. We went through a lot of them in tonight's show on what exactly the framework looks like for what at least government authorities would consider sufficiently decentralized and what that looks like. But I literally can't think of any node network. I can't think of any token that I've horsed around in that is not that would pass that test to make it over to the CFTC yet. I really don't.
It's a start. That's all I'm going to say. By the way, so I'm trying to draw things down. We're at an hour now, and
right.
we need to start kind of closing this down.
Yes, I did want to jump back to Punjab, and he made it. It was something you talked about with Brink the other day. The wallets. That was it. So I did the shorts for the show, and it turns out that there's a lot more context to that, because you started talking about how Gala could turn off wallets, and then it evolved then into Brink caught on at one point, and he says, well, no, wait a minute. No, not wallets. We can't shut off wallets. We can shut off Gala in that wallet. And that's true and not true. So what I mean by that is a lot of times you're like, they have to blacklist it or freeze it or shut it off or whatever on ETH. That address may contain things that are on ETH that may or may not accidentally get frozen as well. You may not be able to move any tokens from that address if you don't blacklist it properly, right? And he said they did it at the contract level, so I'm, at least from what he said, I haven't verified this, but his words were they can only do it from the Gala contract. So I'm going to assume he knows what he's talking about there, and say that being able to reach into your wallet and shut off Gala for whatever reason is an abomination. Reaching over and pushing a button and shutting nodes off is an abomination. And that goes for anybody out there. I'm not just talking about Gala here. Any project that can do that, you've got to be very careful with. And what I'm hoping is that the government doesn't get the keys to that kingdom so that they can shut down wallets themselves, like groups of addresses that are potentially, like if you have to register your whole MetaMask. I have 12 addresses in my MetaMask. Are they going to be able to get their fingers into MetaMask and shut it all down? Either way, that power right there tells you 100% that they are not decentralized, where somebody can push a button and take your money, freeze your money, or freeze anything on that network. 100%.
All right. We done? Can I change subject?
I've done a lot. Yeah, no, I've done a lot of talking. I appreciate your patience with me, Faz. I had a lot to say tonight, so please jump in.
Professor Titan, it's kind of funny because in a lot of these, I'd go over tax stuff and people would just be dropping off like flies. But apparently, when Titan gets out his little his little screenshotter and his highlighter, people pay attention. So
no, you know what? So it's a challenge now. You guys have to help me beat Faz. We've got to get a cast that I'm on over 388 views. I was very proud of that. I was amazed. Last night it was at like 200 something, and I sent Faz a note. I'm like, oh my God, congratulations. You did a heck of a good job, because these are record setting views for like a day or two after a cast. We have casts that have had 400, 500, 600 views, but never like this.
You know, people give me so much
this
crap.
quick.
People give me so much crap because I'm nice to Bitbender. He's a human being, and I understand that he is against a lot of things that apparently other people are for, and there's some disharmony back and forth. But I tend to be nice to everybody, and I don't know. I think it's worth it to get that information, and I focused a lot on the information. Anyway, I'd like to change the subject because I got to get going. But I just want to announce that my zip bugs are now being shown. They will be shown in an art gallery on 29th of May. It's in Finland, Helsinki, Finland. And it's actually shown on my profile on this art website. So there's this art website called The Hug, XYZ. It's started by I think the wife or sister of Mark Zuckerberg, guy who made Facebook. Anyway, what they do is they hook you up with art galleries to post your stuff. And so I got my stuff showing at one art gallery on the 29th, but I'm not able to do updates on the site because I need 10 followers, which is like nothing. But I have 8 right now. So I need 2 more, and I'm going to put it in the chat here. But I just need 2 more followers. If anybody feels nice enough to want to follow the zip bugs, what would it do? Made it into multiple messages on the chat. So
it's sending it to all the places we're streaming to. That's
why. So if you guys like the site or are able to follow, I don't know if you need an account or not. I hear that you don't, but you might. Please do give it a follow so that I can post updates on my art.
I don't think I went to that link yet either.
No, you haven't either. You haven't said nice things about me. Reaper says it's a great job interviewing. Yeah, about halfway through that interview, because Bitbender was pissed in the beginning. He was coming out hard and angry, coming out swinging. I was asking him questions. He's shooting me down, and people are like, Faz, he's totally owning you right now. I was just like, I'm just letting him get tired, and then I'll come back around. Anyway, that it?
Well,
good. Out of here?
I think so. Another great Friday night. Thank you all for going through some of I tried to make it as interesting as possible, talking about regulations.
And I had to stop you before you made everybody leave. That was good. That's a good analysis. It's good that you got the how they think of crypto as being securities. I'm not completely in agreement as to what you might think are securities, but that's okay. Getting the details out there are good enough so people can make their own decision. Oh.
Yeah, that's just guidelines. It's not law.
Yay, Mr. Zorro. Yes. If you like zip bugs, because Zorro's doing one, just give me one more follow and then I can post updates. And that means that when the stuff is showing at the art gallery on the 29th, people can see continual updates, for my bugs that they like. All right.
Very cool.
Thank you guys. Where's the button at? I think it's this one.